Welcome, everyone. Dr. Thor here. Get ready for Christ consciousness. Well, I want to talk about Aleister Crowley. He does seem to be like a bad penny that comes back, a gum on your shoe. You really can't get rid of this guy. And like so many things in life, I look at all the hoopla over so many people and just say, huh? So? I mean, people make so much of him, and of course, I don't really understand why. He really wasn't all that popular, and of course, he was at a time where there wasn't the internet. He did get around. He was wealthy. You know, who doesn't want to know the rich guy because you think that he's going to drop a penny and you're going to grab it? Usually, they take money out of your pocket. A very strange guy who came from a very wealthy family who made their money in beer, of all things, who were radical Christians. You're talking about people like born againers. Went through the typical British public school system, which we would call private system, and of course ran into the usual problems you run into this system in particular, which seems to be intrinsically within the British system, but maybe private schools in general, because you're mixing in horny teenagers with a bunch of young children. So there's a lot of sexuality going on there, and of course these are not schools that have women involved, so they're segregated schools with just men in them. So, I mean, he's just an odd character. I'm reading another book on him, which I will be making a report on soon, which is kind of interesting of the people that Aleister Crowley has influenced. And it goes from when he was alive all the way up to modern day to many rock stars and individuals. So it's kind of a very interesting book. I don't think there's much in-depth research done there because, as usual, people take the common company line. So they just report what's out there and don't look into it because it reaffirms their personal prejudices. So one of the interesting things which have come up with actual Aleister Crowley is the fact that this entity called LAM, L-A-M, LAM, who has a very minor resemblance to gray aliens. And apparently this was jumped upon by some of his followers that came after Aleister Crowley or knew him towards the end of his life, trying to connect extraterrestrials with it. Well, LAM, it doesn't look like an extraterrestrial at all. I mean, the only thing that LAM has, if you actually look at the picture that has been written there, is the fact that he has this bulbous head. Now, we don't see any ears of this particular, and you'll note that the drawing is on this particular lecture, the picture I have as the main picture there. So you can look at yourself here as I'm speaking. This is in no way I would call a gray alien. Gray aliens are much, much different than this, and to think this is a gray alien is really just grasping at straws, which most people tend to do to somehow verify their belief system. Now, extraterrestrials are very interesting and a area of just shocking amount of information that's out there. I mean, it pretty much has been verified they're extraterrestrials. How they are working with the Earth and people, the government, what they're interacting with is still a big mystery because your government doesn't want to release anything. So they just deny everything. But to think that this is a gray alien is really a misnomer. I mean, he doesn't have the very typical features of a gray alien, which of course we start off with his big black eye. I mean, this is the most notable feature. They have giant black eyes. Now, these are thought maybe to be the part of an actual helmet, etc., where these are not their real eyes. They're covering their eyes because of the sunlight here, etc. Now, Aleister Crowley's picture has slitty eyes, almost very little eyes. So does that, the main feature of a gray alien is these giant black eyes, yet this figure doesn't have it. This is the same old story how people distort things. So I wouldn't look at this at all. The fact that he has a bulbous head really is very common in many pictures of things that we see and doesn't really equate to this being an alien in any way. So the bottom line is that this is a distortion of things. Now, the face itself, the nose again, is not very alien. The noses are much smaller than we see on LAM, and they are not really similar. This is a pretty pronounced human-looking nose, while alien noses tend to be shorter and maybe just two holes. A lot of aliens have very tiny to no mouth. Now, the mouth of the alien and the mouth of gray aliens and LAM are somewhat similar, but again, it looks like very human mouth. There's also a very pointy chin. Now, this is where people get a little caught up because aliens kind of have pointy chins, so to speak, and a small type similar mouth. But, that's again a feature that has changed dramatically. As I said, aliens' nose structure is completely different, much flatter, has holes there. There isn't, I'm not sure if the lamb had ears or not. He doesn't really show us that. It's kind of like he doesn't have ears. But the mouth itself and the chin itself is very human-like. So is the nose and so is the eye. So if you were to take the bulbous area of this person's head off, it would look pretty much like a human. He's claiming this is an entity unto itself that, I don't know if Aleister Crowely claimed that it was an actual human or not, in terms of, actual extraterrestrial or not. So we would have to check that out further to see exactly what he's stating. But the actual picture of everything doesn't check out. It doesn't look the same whatsoever, and we got to be careful of just mixing things because that fits into your little belief system. And this is what everybody does. They mix things in because it fits whatever they want. And of course, Aleister Crowley follower connected this and started to talk about aliens, which really had nothing to do with it. Aleister Crowley was a person dealing with spirits, magic, and all those things. I don't really remember any great discussions from him about extraterrestrials whatsoever. So that was all part of the particular situation that is going on to identify this LAM thing. So let's get that clear. LAM is not a gray alien. The pictures of it doesn't look like a gray alien whatsoever. And the number one feature of a gray alien is giant black eyes. Now, when you look at this, they're slit eyes here, almost eyes that are tiny, the opposite of what the classical understanding of a gray alien is. So it's really nothing at all like a gray alien. There is no influences there whatsoever, except a very minor one. The basic face of LAM is pretty much human right up to the top of the head, where it starts to get bulbous. And a bulbous head has been something that's quite common in many ancient drawings and other things. I'm not sure there's anything kind of odd about that. I think that that's common. And some people have very large heads. And they are kind of bulbous. And a lot of people in this day and age, of course, even shave their heads. So they kind of look like this gray alien or have this kind of bulbous head up top. But there's absolutely no extraterrestrial in any way connections between LAM and what we consider gray aliens that are coming to this planet, which vary, by the way, greatly. They're small, they're tall, they're in between. Even their facial structures, their heads, everything else does change a wee bit. But the classic example is not represented here. So let's move on with the more disinformation that you get from people, which is really annoying. It's very annoying that people don't do any kind of research and believe whatever claptrap that they're fed by other people. Until next time.